If you're building generative AI application using open source model and you do have a need of function calling, then there is a good news for you. Ollama has introduced improvement in the function calling in their 0.4 library. And in this video, we are going to see what kind of improvement has been introduced and how we can utilize it. So earlier, when we have to do any kind of function calling, then you have to pass a certain function schema, and that schema would look like this, where you have to pass a type, then you have to pass a function name, what exactly this function would do, description, then the parameters, properties, all those things. And it was a bit different than how we write a function usually. Now the improvement, what has been introduced over here is, instead of defining all this function schema, we can just directly go ahead and define a Python function, and then we can pass this function as a tool. So let's see how to do it. So in this video, we are going to call this OMDB API to get a particular movie or series details. So if you want to leverage this API, then you just have to click on API key. You have to just select this free, and you can just submit the details and you will get that API key in your email. And let's just explore it a bit, how that information is going to look like. So we just have to pass this OMDB API key with our key, and then there are certain parameters that we can pass it to. So if you want to search for a specific movie title, then you have to pass a parameter as a T. And they do have the UI also. So suppose like if I just go ahead and search for any specific movie, let me search for Deadpool versus Wolverine, and let me just go ahead and search for it. Then you can see the parameter is being passed in the title, and then we are going to get a response like this. So let's go to our Visual Studio and let's try to write a code for the same. So here we are going to get started with util.py file. In this utility file, we are basically going to define our function first, because as we have seen in the documentation, we can now define a function and pass it as a tool to Ollama. So this is what we are doing. So in this function, the input is going to be title, and as we have seen it, this particular API requires two parameters. One is going to be API key and another is going to be title, on which we can search for any movies or series. And then actually we are going to use this request library, pass our base URL. The base URL is going to be this omdbapi.com, and then we just have to pass our params, which we have defined over here. If the status code is 200, which denotes we have got a successful response, then we are just retrieving all the data what in the JSON format what we have got from this API. If the response is not successful, then we can just say like failed to fetch the data from OMDB API. So this is a very normal API calling function. And also this key I have put it in the environment file, so we can just load this environment file and get the key out of it by using os.getEnv, and then we can just pass API key over here. This is about our utility function, and now we are going to use it while calling open source models. As we know, like if we have to work with Ollama, so first of all we have to import a chat from Ollama, and then actually we can directly just go ahead and pass our message. And here I'm just saying role is going to be user, share details about Deadpool and Wolverine movie. The model which I'm using is going to be Llama 3.2. As we have seen in our earlier video, whatever model you are trying to leverage over here, you just have to make sure okay that model is already pulled in your system, and you can check it using Ollama list. Planning to use 3.2, I do have this 3.2 latest, so I can use this model. Let me just make it latest. And also because this function calling improvement has been introduced in 0.4 library, so you just have to make sure the library which you are using for Ollama is 0.4. Here I do have 0.4.4. In this case, if I just go to chat, so you will see this tools options over here, and under this tools only we have to pass our function. If you don't see this tools option, it means like your Ollama package is not updated. So you can go ahead and update your package just to make sure like you have the supporting version of Ollama for this function calling feature. As we have seen, we can just go ahead and pass our function under this tools. We are importing our function from this util file, and then we are passing it under a list. Now we can go ahead and print the message. We can print it like response.message.content. Now let me just go ahead and run this code. And in this case, you can see we haven't got anything. So let me just show you why this is happening. So instead of printing everything, we are just going to print a response now. And here you can see in the response, the model is mentioned. Then here you see the message section from where actually we retrieve the content. And in this case, we haven't got anything. Now, why this is happening? Because first of all, it is just trying to identify whether any tool call is there or not. And it could see like, okay, we are calling the search movie function. You can see in the tool call, the function is passed as search movie. And from our input, it has taken an argument and it has defined the title as Deadpool and Wolverine. In the first step, it is identifying our function, and for that function it is defining our arguments. If we have to execute this function, then we have to perform certain steps over here. First thing what we have to do is define our available functions. So we are just going to call it as a variable available functions, and then we are going to define a dictionary. The key is going to be search movie, and under this we are having our function which is going to be search movie. And after that, because everything is getting defined at the tool call, so we have to retrieve our function name and the argument from here, and then we have to pass that to a function to get it executed. So for that we are going to define a loop, and we can see where exactly the function is coming. So it's coming under tool calls, as you can see over here. So we are just going to have a tool calls, and we know our function name is under this function. Now we can call it tool.function.name, and this function name, this is going to be the key, and using this key we have to call our this particular function. So what we are going to get from here, we are going to get this key with the coded string. Using this we have to call our functions. We are just going to call available functions because this is our dictionary which we have defined, and we can just retrieve it using this. Okay, so let me just correct it, and same thing we can do it here. Now we are getting this key from here. When we are going to pass it, we are going to get this particular function, right? We can just call it function to call, and now we do have a function. Other thing what we have to pass is the arguments. If this condition is true, then we just have to go ahead and call our function. So what we are going to do is function to call, and then we just have to pass arguments. The argument is title, and then we do have a value. So there is a way to pass all this. So we are using this search movie function. Search movie function can have a title like this. There could be like 1 or 2 particular parameters, or there could be some different function altogether, and that function argument could be different. So instead of hard coding all these arguments, we do have a way to unpack the values what we get it into arguments. We can just use this to star, and this will just take like whatever value we are getting in the arguments and then pass it to a function. By following this method, we do not have to hard code any value. So suppose tomorrow instead of search movie you have another function, it is having some different arguments, you can just pass the same code and it will take care of everything. So what we have to do, we just have to pass arguments, and we know the argument is coming under function, and then it's coming under arguments. Now this will give you the out. So this is going to be your function output. Now if I want, I can just go ahead and print this particular output. So this is going to be function output, and that's it. Now let me just go ahead and rerun this code. Now you can see, like in this case, first of all we have got this particular output which was for our function, which we have got it from here from our earlier response. When actually we have executed our functions using this particular code, then we are getting a response like this. So this is going to be your API response, which we have seen it earlier also, and the API is going to give you all these values, and you can see like this is going to be in the structured format. So after calling this particular function, if you want to retrieve any of the specific values, then you can just retrieve it from here by using all this key. This is also like one of the way using which you can get a structured output from your LLM model. This is all what we have in this video. Thank you for watching.